This is Larry Henares making your day with the 9th part of an article we wrote on money for those who do not have enough of it. Chapter, Our Foreign Debt Will Never Be Paid. In the final analysis, credits from the IMF and World Bank are given to finance the outflow of dollars, leaving the country deeper in debt and less chance of paying it. Why does the IMF, World Bank give out loans that are never intended to get paid? The IMF, World Bank lend money to poor nations for exactly the same reason an unscrupulous landlord lends money to tenant that he exploits. A landlord lends money for the tenant for fiestas, for baptism, for tuition, for marriages, for funerals, and also give him credit for overpriced goods that the company store without any expectation of being paid back. He lends money to keep the tenant in perpetual debt. Such a debt is recognized by the state and other employers, so the tenant cannot run away. Thus, the landlord can keep the tenant working for him at the plantation at starvation wages. The IMF, World Bank, lend poor nations money principally to keep them working for the industrialized countries as hewers of wood and suppliers of raw materials as cheap labor. That is why our foreign debt continually increases, even as the IMF gives us this approval seal. Not all distressed nations succumb to the onerous conditions of the IMF. In 1972, the IMF terms were so resented in Ghana that they resulted in a military coup d'etat, marking the end of democracy in Ghana. In January 1984, another coup forced the president of Nigeria out of the office after he agreed to IMF terms. In March 1983, violent protests over IMF terms shook the governments of Peru and Chile. In the Dominican Republic, 50 people died in food riots, and the Dominican government subsequently refused to comply with the IMF program. In May 1984, Venezuela rejected IMF conditions. Bolivia suspended external payments, and 4 major debtor nations, Mexico, Brazil, Argentina, and Colombia, are threatening to organize a debtors cartel. In June 1984, Ecuador unilaterally announced that it is suspending payments on its debts to foreign governments. More about this after these messages. This is Larry Henares making your day with the 9th part of an article we wrote on money for those who do not have enough of it. Chapter, Our Foreign Debt Will Never Be Paid. Many economists feel that there is a valid alternative to the IMF prescription. They realize that the reasons poor nations cannot pay their debts at this time are the continued refusal of the United States to slow down the rising interest rates, which encourage capital flight to the United States, and the one-sided protectionist stance of the industrialized nations, which denies the poor nations access to the markets of the rich nations. To protect themselves from the shocks and contradictions of the external world market, many nations have opted to set up a self-sufficient, self-reliant economy that reduces their dependence on world trade and foreign currencies. First, they shift emphasis to production not for export but for domestic consumption, most especially the basic needs of the people for food, clothing, shelter, and health care. Second, they set up, against the wishes of the IMF, priority import classifications and protective tariffs that will ensure the survival of local industries in the face of unfair foreign competition. Third, they set up, also against the wishes of the IMF, restrictions on foreign currency transactions to ensure that foreign companies do not use mainly domestic savings to generate profits that are spirited out of the country and to prevent wastage of dollars for unnecessary expenses and exports. Fourth, they would keep the government from debauching the currency by excessive budgetary deficits and inflationary policies. This is one IMF proposal that is acceptable to most economists. Above all, they make sure that the prime movers and chief beneficiaries of economic development must primarily be the citizens of the country itself. That foreign investment must be welcomed not as masters, but as partners to stimulate but not to overwhelm native entrepreneurs, to supplement, not to supplant native capital. But the Philippines and the rest of the world in the aftermath of worldwide recession and economic stagnation have finally and irreversibly fallen into the sphere of the IMF and the World Bank with its grand design for free trade and open economy under the law of comparative advantage, with multinational corporations as the engines of economic development. More tomorrow, my dear friends. This is Larry Henares, making your day, saying good day, God bless you. Thank you very much for being with us. Till next time, hasta la bye-bye.